Right, so we're ready to jump into Umberto Eco's The Name of the Rose. You sent this over, and let me tell you, it's really something else. It's not just like a typical mystery, is it?
Oh, definitely not. The Name of the Rose it's really captivating. Eco, he manages to blend a gripping murder mystery with these really profound philosophical explorations. It's a story that operates on so many different levels. It really makes you think about the nature of truth, the power of knowledge, the clash between reason and faith in a world that's like on the verge of change.
Yeah. And we're talking 14th century Italy here, right? The Benedictine Abbey, tucked away in the Italian Alps. Like, the setting itself is almost like a character. You know what I mean? This isolated, almost claustrophobic kind of world.
Exactly, yeah. The Abbey, it's like a microcosm, I think, of the larger medieval world.
Yeah.
Full of its own power struggles and secrets and anxieties. And within this confined space, you have this series of really bizarre deaths that unfold. And it just plunges the Abbey into this like chaos and suspicion.
Right. And that's where William of Baskerville comes in. He's like a medieval Sherlock Holmes, right? This Franciscan friar with this incredible mind and this knack for observation.
Yeah, definitely. William's arrival at the Abbey with his young apprentice, Adso of Melk, it really marks the beginning of our journey into this labyrinthine world. And through Adso's eyes, we see not just the mystery unfolding, but also, the intellectual and spiritual awakening of this young novice who's, grappling with all these complex questions about faith and reason.
So they're not just there to solve a murder, right? It feels like their mission is like bigger than that.
Well, their arrival, it coincides with this really crucial theological debate, this gathering of all these learned men to discuss, the issue of the poverty of Christ, which was very controversial at the time. And the Abbey, being a renowned center of knowledge and debate, it becomes like a battleground for all these competing ideologies. And William is caught right in the middle of it.
And speaking of knowledge, we have to talk about the Abbey's library, right?
Yeah.
This isn't just your typical library. It's like a labyrinth, right? Shrouded in secrecy, and it's rumored to hold all this forbidden knowledge.
The library is incredible, yeah. With its intricate architecture and hidden passages, it symbolizes more than just a place where books are kept. It represents the complexities of knowledge itself, the ways that it can be controlled, manipulated, even weaponized. Eco really brilliantly uses the library as this space to explore, the themes of censorship and the power dynamics surrounding knowledge and the anxieties surrounding texts that are considered forbidden.
Yeah, it's like the library is almost a character itself, right? Full of secrets and like dangers lurking, in its depths.
Precisely, yeah. And as William navigates this labyrinth, using his logic and his semiotic skills to decipher clues, we see how Eco really emphasizes the importance of interpretation. Every little detail, every symbol, every sign, even if it seems insignificant, it can hold a key to unraveling the truth. Like, you remember how William figures out the path of the abbot's, prized horse, Brunello, just by observing tracks and the vegetation.
Right. It's amazing how he puts it all together, like a detective reading the language of the physical world.
Right.
So signs and how we interpret them, that plays a really crucial role in the story, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Eco, being a semiotician himself, he really weaves this concept throughout the whole novel. We see it in William's deductions, in the elaborate, marginalia that's adorning all these ancient manuscripts, and even in the characters themselves, who often, function as symbols representing different, philosophical viewpoints.
It's not just about what happens, but like how we interpret what happens, right? The meaning that we give to those events. It's like Eco's inviting us to become detectives alongside William, to question and analyze everything that we see.
Yeah, exactly. And this questioning, it extends to the nature of truth itself. Like, throughout the novel, Eco, he presents us with all these different characters who embody these contrasting approaches to truth and knowledge. You have William, the man of reason and observation, who's, he advocates for empirical evidence and logical deduction.
Yeah, right.
And then you have Jorge, the blind librarian, who represents a much more rigid and dogmatic view of truth. He's fiercely guarding the library's secrets, and he's really afraid of the power of certain knowledge. Like, there are debates about laughter, for example, and how it relates to faith. Those are really thought-provoking.
Yeah. It really makes you think, like, can laughter something that seems so frivolous, can it actually coexist with faith? Can it be a tool to help us understand, like a way to challenge dogma? Or is it a threat to the established order?
Exactly, yeah. And it's like Eco is asking us to consider, like, is there just one way to reach the truth? Or are there multiple paths, each with their own limitations and their own insights? And this whole questioning of established truths, it's happening against this backdrop of real historical turmoil. I mean, we can't forget that this is 14th century Europe, a time marked by all this religious and political upheaval, and the threat of heresy and the Inquisition is like looming over everything.
Yeah. The story mentions the Fraticelli, right? This group that's been deemed heretical by the church, and the fear surrounding accusations of heresy. It adds another layer of tension to the whole atmosphere.
It really does, yeah. The Abbey becomes this microcosm of this larger social anxiety, the fear of dissenting voices, the control over knowledge, the persecution of those who are seen as different, and all these elements, they contribute to the novel's complex and suspenseful atmosphere.
So we have this web of mystery and philosophy and historical context, all swirling around this isolated abbey. It's like looking into a time capsule. We're getting a glimpse into the intellectual and social anxieties of the medieval world.
Exactly, yeah. And as the bodies start to, pile up within the abbey's walls, the mystery just gets deeper and deeper. And we're left wondering, who is behind all these deaths, and what are their motives? Is it religious fanaticism? Is it a power struggle within the abbey, or is there something even more sinister lurking beneath the surface? So as William investigates the abbey's library, with all its twists and turns, it really becomes like a central battleground in a way. It's not just a place of knowledge. It's a place where power is, exerted secrets are guarded, and access to information is fiercely controlled.
Yeah, and that makes me think about Jorge, the blind librarian. He was so protective of the library, almost possessive. What's the deal? Why is he like that?
Well, Jorge, I think he embodies this very particular anxiety about the power of knowledge. He believes that some knowledge is just too dangerous for people who aren't, ready for it, that certain truths have to be kept hidden to preserve order and prevent chaos. And his blindness, it actually becomes this really powerful symbol. It doesn't just represent his physical limitation, but also this kind of metaphorical blindness to the potential benefits of, open inquiry.
So he's not just being like a grumpy gatekeeper. He really believes that he's protecting the world from something dangerous.
Exactly.
But couldn't that also be used to, manipulate people?
Yeah.
To control what they think?
Yeah, absolutely. That's where the novel's exploration of censorship becomes really relevant. He shows us how the desire to control knowledge can be used, to maintain power, and often at the expense of truth and freedom of thought.
It makes me think about, the historical context again, the Inquisition and the fear of heresy. These are times when, challenging the accepted narrative could have really, really bad consequences.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Abbey, with its strict hierarchy and its emphasis on obedience, it reflects this larger, societal structure. The monks, they live in a world where questioning authority is discouraged, and where straying from the accepted path can lead to accusations of heresy.
And it's not just the monks who are caught in this web of control and suspicion, right?
Yeah.
We see it with characters like Salvatore, the deformed servant. He speaks multiple languages and seems to exist on the fringes of the abbey's social order.
Yeah, Salvatore he's such a fascinating character because he embodies the other, the individual who doesn't really fit into the neat categories of the abbey's world. He's associated with the occult and folklore, with knowledge that lies outside the realm of sanctioned learning.
Right. And he's also connected to the mysterious girl who sneaks into the abbey, right? This girl who represents this kind of like untamed natural world that's in direct contrast to the abbey's rigid structure.
Exactly. And their relationship, it's forbidden, it's transgressive, it disrupts the abbey's carefully constructed order. It introduces this element of chaos,
Wow.
A reminder of the human desires and impulses that lie beyond the reach of control and dogma.
It's like their presence and the chaos that follows. It forces the abbey to confront its own like repressed desires, the things that it tries so hard to to keep hidden.
Exactly, yeah. And this confrontation with the repressed leads to some really bizarre and unsettling events. Think about that night in the kitchen, where the monks are engaged in this kind of grotesque, this carnivalesque feast. Their inhibitions loosened by wine and the allure of the forbidden.
Oh yeah, it's a scene that feels both like surreal and deeply symbolic. It's like the abbey's carefully constructed facade of piety and order is like cracking, revealing these darker impulses that are simmering beneath the surface.
Right. And in the midst of all this chaos, we see Adso, the young novice. He's struggling to reconcile his faith with his burgeoning sexuality, his attraction to the girl and the hypocrisy that he's witnessing within the abbey walls. As his journey becomes a microcosm of the larger themes that the novel's exploring, the clash between reason and faith, the allure of the forbidden, and the disillusionment that can arise when you're confronted with the imperfections of human institutions.
Yeah, he goes through a lot, especially for a young guy. It's like his innocence is being shattered, piece by piece as the mystery unfolds.
Yeah. And this process of disillusionment, it's mirrored in William's own investigation. Despite his, brilliant deductions and his unwavering belief in logic, he also faces setbacks. He encounters these obstacles that reason alone can't overcome.
So it's not just a simple story of good versus evil or reason triumphing over ignorance. It's more complicated than that.
Yeah, it is. Eco, he deliberately avoids easy answers. He challenges us to really grapple with the ambiguities of human nature and the complexities of a world where knowledge can be both liberating and destructive, where faith can inspire both devotion and fanaticism.
Which brings us back to that mysterious book that everyone seems so desperate to find. It's almost like the book itself becomes this symbol, representing the dangerous power of knowledge.
The book, yeah. It's rumored to contain this lost work by Aristotle on comedy, and it becomes a source of both fascination and terror. For some, it represents a threat to the established order, a source of knowledge that could undermine the authority of the church. For others, it's a key to unlocking forbidden truths, a pathway to a different way of understanding the world.
But it's not just about the content of the book, right? It's about the secrets it holds.
Yeah.
The power it represents.
Yeah.
And the lengths to which people will go to control it.
Exactly. The pursuit of the book, it becomes an obsession, driving characters to acts of desperation and even violence. Yeah. And as the mystery unravels, we discover that the true danger isn't in the book itself, but in the human capacity for greed and ambition and the desire to manipulate knowledge for personal gain.
This is getting really intense. We've got all these different characters, each with their own motivations and secrets, all tangled up in this deadly game of cat and mouse. And at the center of it all is this book, this forbidden knowledge that could potentially change everything.
And as the tension mounts, the body count rises. William finds himself racing against time to uncover the truth before the abbey is consumed by its own internal conflicts and the flames of suspicion engulf everything.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat here. Who's behind all of this, and what's going to happen to William and Adso? They're trapped in this incredibly dangerous situation.
Well, to answer those questions, we need to delve into the final part of our deep dive. We'll uncover the identity of the killer, explore the shocking revelations that come to light, and discuss the really profound implications of the book's fiery climax.
This is why I love Eco's work. He keeps you guessing until the very end, forces you to think critically and engage with the story on so many different levels.
And that's precisely what we'll do in the next part of our deep dive. We'll unravel the final threads of the mystery, explore the deeper philosophical questions that the novel raises, and consider the enduring relevance of the name of the rose in our own time.
All right, so we're back and ready to kind of like finish up the name of the rose. Last time things were like really getting crazy at the Abbey. We had, all those deaths, the mysterious book, and William and Adso stuck in the middle of it all. So what happens next?
Well, things get even more surprising when we find out who the killer is. It's not some mysterious figure hiding in the Abbey. It's Jorge, the blind librarian, the one who was supposed to be protecting all the library's secrets.
Wait a minute, Jorge, the guy who was so afraid of knowledge, being used in the wrong way, he's the one behind all this.
Yeah.
How does that even make sense?
It's a really clever twist by Eco, you know? It shows us that knowledge can be both good and bad. Even the people who try to control it, they can end up being corrupted by it. Jorge, he tried to protect the world from dangerous knowledge, but he ends up becoming the thing he was most afraid of.
So it's not just about protecting knowledge, but about, like, having power over it, using it as a weapon almost.
Yeah.
Pretty scary when you think about it, especially with everything going on with the Inquisition back then and how they, like, silenced anyone who disagreed with them.
Exactly. Jorge's character shows us how dangerous it is to be inflexible in your thinking and how fear can be used to justify censorship and, oppression. When you silence people who question things, when you restrict knowledge, those in power can stay in power and crush anyone who disagrees.
In this case, it, like, totally backfires. Everything Jorge did, it leads to the destruction of the thing he was trying to protect, the library. That's like ultimate irony right there.
Yeah, the burning of the libraries, it's a huge moment in the book. It's like a symbol of what happens when you try to censor things, how fragile knowledge really is when you have fanaticism and fear. It shows that suppressing ideas, well, it can make them explode back even stronger, sometimes with really bad consequences.
And while all this is going on, all this chaos and destruction, Adso, the young novice, he's going through his own transformation. He sees the Inquisition firsthand. He's dealing with his own feelings, and he starts to question everything he thought he knew about faith and the world.
Adso's journey is like a classic coming-of-age story. He starts out so naive, so eager to learn, But as he sees how complex the Abbey really is, the darkness inside people, the contradictions in faith, his innocence is lost. He comes out of it completely changed.
It's like a reminder that growing up comes with a price. That understanding and knowledge can come with disillusionment and even loss. But it also shows how strong the human spirit is, how we can still find meaning even when things are really tough.
As the library burns, taking centuries of knowledge with it, William Adso, they escape. And they're not just carrying the secrets they've learned, they're also carrying the lessons about how powerful and fragile knowledge is, how complex faith can be, and the constant fight between reason and dogma.
So what about us, the readers? We're reading this centuries later. What's the message for us? What does Eco want us to think about?
This book, The Name of the Rose, it's like a timeless look at what it means to be human. It makes us think about truth, how knowledge can be tempting and dangerous, and why critical thinking is so important in a world where information is constantly changing. It's a story that goes beyond the time it's set in. It tells us to be careful of censorship, to stay curious, and to look at the world with open eyes, always questioning, always searching, always trying to understand.
Wow, that was quite a journey through The Name of the Rose. It's a book that makes you think, that stays with you long after you finish it.
Yeah, and that's what makes great literature, right? It challenges us, makes us ask questions, and leaves us with more questions than answers. Eco reminds us that searching for meaning is something we do our whole lives. It's a journey that never really ends.
Well said. And that wraps up our deep dive into The Name of the Rose. I hope this got you thinking, maybe sparked your imagination a little, and hey, maybe you'll even check out this amazing book for yourself.